Hi, I'm Kathy from the Madison Library District, and today we're going to be working on some gold leaf, an ancient art that was used in a lot of illumination and old manuscripts and all kinds of things. Hopefully you have a kit that you've picked up from the library. In it, there are going to be a couple of pieces of paper. You should have a round brush, a flat brush, an embosser, we'll talk more about that, and a little bottle of glue, along with 3 sheets each of gold, copper, and silver gold leafing, which will look a little like this. So I've spent about a month trying to get the technique right here, and I'm still struggling. So this is going to be an experiment all the way through. Hopefully you can just kind of get your feet wet a little bit, and then I can give you some guidance to help it work better in the future. Okay, first of all, I'm going to show you some of the projects that I started working on with varying degrees of success. The first two are designs that I traced, thinking they should be fairly straightforward. This is one that I did watercolor backgrounds here and here, and then most of the rest of it is just using markers. So we've got Sharpies and different colors, and then I tried to do the gold leaf over that. As you can see, it was not really successful. It did not stick at all in some places, and in some places it stuck where there wasn't glue, and that was a recurring problem. I think I know why that's doing that, and I'll explain a little bit more later. But so that was the first attempt. The next attempt was going to be the piece of great, an old Irish design, some Celtic knot work. And in this one, you might want to try this at home, not connected with gold leaf at all. But I decided to go really old school and go with some tempera paints. So if you're not familiar with that, tempera is pigment added to egg yolks, which was used a lot in the Middle Ages. You can't really get it now because it doesn't hold up in tubes. So if you're going to do it, you have to do it yourself. So I used 2 tempera paints here that I made. This one I used just food coloring for the pigment. And this one, I ground up some brick and put in the egg yolk. And I thought I had a nice fine powder, but it turned out to be a lot grainier than I thought it would be. This I had planned to do with a silver gold leaf. Silver leafing, because back in the Middle Ages in Ireland, silver was the most expensive, the most valuable metal. They couldn't get it locally. They had to get it from the Middle East. So gold was... However, after my experiment with this and seeing that it really often didn't stick around the edges at all, having all these fine lines, I knew just wasn't going to work with what I was doing. So this is just craft paint over it. So kind of ignore this as far as the leafing goes, but playing with the tempera was really fun, and you might want to experiment with that. All right, my next attempt, I just did a freehand design, something that I thought would be very simple. And did a little watercolor fishy with a metallic background. So it'd be a big area. I thought it would be really easy to do, really slick, and it wasn't. I've actually gone over this 3 times now, and I'm finally getting the background to be fairly consistent. But the gold leaf, or in this case the copper leafing, was sticking to absolutely everything except where I put the glue. Just gluing a piece down to a piece of paper you would not think would be a problem, but it is. As you can see, the gold leaf is very delicate. It's hard to work with. And I think the biggest problem here is the glue. There are several brands of adhesives that are specifically meant for gold leafing. They're rather expensive, but I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials that say, hey, you can get some like tacky glue, like Aleene's tacky glue, craft glue, water it down a little bit and it works just as well. It doesn't. So I think that's really the basic problem that I'm having here and that you will probably experience as well. So this little project is probably going to be a little frustrating for you, but if you decide you do kind of like it and you get some of that fixative that's specifically meant for the leafing, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it. That being said, we'll come back to this. I'll brush it off in a minute after I show you what's going on. This is the last project that I went with, and this I wanted to do more of a authentic kind of medieval looking thing, and had a couple of designs that I found from old manuscripts and kind of made a combination of those, and of course varied things a bit because you have to if you're a creative person to make this picture. Again, as you can see, I had a lot of trouble with the gold leaf adhering. I've been over these twice, and I'm still having trouble along the edges, getting things to stick. All right, so this is what I found works best. Yes, it has been worse than this in the past, so this is the best practice that I have found. First of all, the small areas that I have done that work really well, I always did on my back porch. So there may be something there with the back porch and doing it outside that is your good luck charm, or maybe not. Anyway, you've got a little bottle of glue. This is the craft tacky glue that's been watered down, not quite equal parts water to glue, maybe like half part water to glue. You don't want to try going with the little nozzle there. You won't have enough control with it. So just get something, a plate, a saucer, a cup, and just pour a little bit out for you to work with. And put that nozzle back on and set it aside and forget it. Then you've got a small brush, a round brush that when wet is going to give you a fairly good tip, so you've got a little more control. As I warned in the directions, I wouldn't do anything really delicate since it's not sticking at the edges. If you have really fine detail work, it's probably just all going to go away. But I have left a couple of areas here that I'm going to do the gold leafing on, just to kind of give you an idea of how it works. I think the most important thing is to get a really even coat, and you don't want to have it thick, have any gloops of glue, excuse me. If you do end up with that, what happens when you put the gold leaf on, it kind of soaks through and the gold leaf will tear. That stuff is really, really annoyingly delicate. I suppose somewhere out there's some stuff you can get that's heavier and more durable, but it's also going to be a lot more expensive. So getting an even coat, you want it thin enough that there's enough glue there to adhere to, but so thick enough to adhere to, but thin enough that it's not going to kind of make a little reservoir underneath the leafing and cause problems. And getting that perfect level is kind of tricky. Okay, so I think I've got things fairly even there. Might be a little thick right here. As I said, you don't want it to be really wet or it's going to come through. But if it's too dry or too thin, it's not going to stick. So good luck with that. It may take a little experimentation. Then you're going to take your gold leaf. Hope you like the arm there. Sorry. And since I've just got a thin little line, I'm going to try to tear off a strip and tearing it somewhat evenly. Yeah, like I say, good luck with that. I'm going to put it on here and then take the flat brush that's in your kit and use that to stick it down. You want to smooth out as many ridges and air bubbles as you can. I'm going to pull that back a little bit. Oops, maybe. And put this other one on there. And take the brush and very carefully smooth that out. Try to get rid of most of the wrinkles and the bubbles in there. Now, at this point, everybody says, oh, let it wait a few minutes. I'd say let it wait quite a while. We do want to kind of press it down a little bit. You might be able to do that with your finger. When I did it in the past, I thought I remembered I had something called a burnishing tool, which looked like a little kind of rounded foot that I would take a paper towel with and rub it down really hard. I've searched and searched for one of those burnishing tools and cannot find anything that remotely resembles it. Excuse me. I have put in your kit an embossing tool, which for something small might work. However, it's also very possible, especially if you're trying to do the smaller end, that's going to just puncture your leafing and tear it all apart. You might be able to work it. What I have found works best for me is just something like this. I'm using the handle of my big flat brush or maybe a wooden spoon or something that doesn't have any hard edges, but it's still fairly strong and you can press down and rub. Of course, being careful not to tear. Good luck. Like I say, a lot of experimentation is going to go on here. Okay, after you've done this, you want to let it just sit for a while. Give it a chance for that glue to adhere. A lot of places will say, wait a few minutes. I'm going to say, wait a few hours. The ones that I have had the best success with, I've actually just left overnight. So give it some time, be patient, set it aside, go do something else, and then come back. Now here's a section that I did first thing this morning. So I'll show you what to do once you've given that a chance to just rest a bit. Using your big flat brush, you're going to go over this gold leaf and you're just going to try to delicately pull the excess off. And you'll have little pieces of flaking metallic foil everywhere. And here again, I gave this a little time and it's working better, but you can see even though I gave it time, I pressed, There are still places that just are not sticking, and I really think that has a lot to do with the glue. You're also going to find that a lot of places it will just stick where you don't want it to. And a lot of that has to do with the glue being just a little too thick. So when you press it down to get that adherence good, it kind of goes out the side, and it might go over some of your lines or into areas that you don't want. I had a little success in some areas taking something like a butter knife or something, not really sharp, but just carefully rubbing over some spots where it had leaked out. And sometimes I was able to do that, and sometimes I was not. With this last bit on this one, I kind of cheated. I wonder what would happen if, and I painted gold paint under where the gold foil was going to go. So even though it's not sticking as much as I would like, it kind of blends in. It's not as obvious and has a little more antique look rather than just a big bad mess look. I'm going with the Bob Ross thing of, happy mistakes. If I know it's not going to work, how can I make it work not work to my advantage? And I'm liking that a lot better than, say, over here. I haven't tried this yet, but I'm wondering about maybe painting that gold over the top. I have tried, like places where it leaked out, to paint over the gold leaf, and it does not work. It doesn't stick. But where we've got these open places where the gold leaf didn't stick, I'm wondering if perhaps I could paint over it and then just maybe blot and get some of the gold on that visible paper to kind of camouflage the uncovered areas a little bit better. So basically that's it. You can do that with the fish over here as well. This is my third attempt to cover this copper ball. The last one looked pretty good, except for a couple of spots. So I'm hoping, we're still getting some places that didn't stick, but mostly it's covered. And I have a swirl of copper all around the room. Anyway, that's the basics of gold leafing. As I said, if you find you like this, you might want to get some of that really good adhesive. You're going to have a much greater success rate with that. But if you've got some time to play, and I say patience is key here, you might find some things that are kind of fun to experiment with. Once again, there's a note in your kit that says, hey, we need the tools back. So please return the brushes, the embosser, and the little bottle of glue. I am giving you a week after this is posted to play. So on the 23rd, we'd like to have those tools back. And it's kind of a test to see if we can do things like this in the future financially, to buy some of these tools and then hopefully reuse them. So have fun for a week. I hope things turn out well. If you'd like to send me a picture or wave it once we get back, library open hours, come in and show me. I'd love to see what you've created. Have fun. Thanks.